morning to everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion, Making Bold Decisions in Volatile Markets. Over the next 50 minutes, we are going to explore a simple but powerful idea. We talk about if uncertainty is not only a risk, but if it can be also a great opportunity. And if you know it can be an opportunity, if you know how to read, decide in it, and if you move fast. We have a fantastic group of panelists here from business, education, leadership, law, sales, and digital transformation. And it's an honor for me to introduce my panel quickly to you. So to my left, I have Kunal Sinha here. He's Chief Knowledge Officer at Ampersand Advisory. He has 36 years of experience in brand strategy and insights into consumer and cultural trends in India, China, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Right next to him, I have Siddhi Arunagiri Mudaliar. He's a global sales trainer, wellness trainer, corporate mentor, best-selling author, international sportsman, don't play basketball against him, and successful industrialist from India with over 30 years of experience. After him, we have Brigadier Sushil Bashin here. He's a military-inspired leadership and team-building coach with 34 years of distinguished army service and 21 years in the corporate world. Bashin empowers individuals and organizations to build and lead high-performing teams. And then I'd like to welcome Dr. Murray Bond. He's Vice President for Global Initiatives at the American Imperial University and Dean at the Royal Roads University at the Ras Al Khaimah campus. And he brings over 20 years of experience in higher education, leadership, and international partnership to this panel. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Anastasia Shakrina. She's the founder and managing partner of Aluma Solutions, a Dubai-based consultancy specializing in legal operations, technology, and AI transformation, with over 20 years of global experience in the legal field, including 10 years as managing legal operations at multinational companies. And my name is Arne Jaksch. I'm the founder and managing partner of Jaksch Life Science Consulting. We are based in Switzerland, where we support our clients to make safe and science-based decisions in highly regulated, often uncertain environments. We will keep this conversation practical and concrete. Expect real stories, not theory. Examples of decisions are presented that were difficult in the moment where they appeared, and also expect some learnings from what the panelists learned out of that situations. Before we start, we would like to invite you to think about a couple of questions you want to ask to us. We don't want to have this as a one-way discussion panel, so your feedback and your questions are welcome at the end. And now we're gonna start. And the first question is, I'm gonna start with Kunal here. When you hear the phrase "making bold decisions in volatile markets," what does it mean in your specific world and business?
Yeah, so I think one of the big challenges in our industry, which is the branding, marketing, communications industry, is that every few years we go through a whole set of new changes, which makes the entire industry having to reevaluate the way it works. 15 years or 20 years back, it went through the whole cycle of moving from analog to digital. Right now, the transformation that it's going through is moved from digital to artificial intelligence. And the impacts of that are very, very deep, especially in an industry that is creative, in an industry that is constantly being forced to be innovative. So I'll give you a personal example of how I kind of navigated and went through that change. In 2005, after growing up and working in India for 15 years, I had an opportunity. I worked for a large multinational organization to move to a new market. Now, in the early 2000s, when everyone knows that Indian IT was through the success stories, a lot of people were going outside, when they were advancing in their careers, the only place to go was westwards. The opportunity that came to me in that company was to go to China. And I looked at the work that I did, which was based on consumer behavior, which was based on building brands. That's what most of our clients would want to do. I realized that and India, if I have the combined experience of consumers and culture, that would be absolutely fantastic. So I decided to go to China, whereas most of the people within the company, including my own boss, that I was completely crazy doing that, right? This happened during a phase of change, maybe not extremely volatile, but I was so glad I went there because all the lessons that I learned. 2005 is when Alibaba was founded, right? That's when China, because the rest of the technology, which was Google, Facebook, all those were banned, decided that it's going to invest in building its own capability and see where they are now, where they're challenging the leaders, in technology, in social media, in e-commerce.
Arunagiri, how is it for you?
Yeah, top of the world. In terms of the difficulty, what I really got present to was I've been a founder CEO of a company which is now completing 30 years. And in this last 30 years of my first generational entrepreneurial journey, I've seen a lot of ups and downs. And I realized one thing as a entrepreneur, I need to continuously keep on building the factor of resilience in my team. Uh, there is going to be failures, there is going to be challenges, but you need to embrace pain of failure. You have to embrace the pain of losses, and if you can build that culture, and I for one believe that that is one of the bold decisions that you need to take, so that you are always able to bounce back from every challenges that come in any entrepreneurial enterprise's journey. So that's my take. Embrace pain, accept failures, accept mistakes, learn from it, and keep on moving forward.
Thank you. Bashir, what does it mean to you?
So, firstly, taking the mic from my friend Arunagiri, not only that we are from India, but we are also both professional speakers from Professional Speakers Association of India. And we have both been buddies for a long time. So, what he's talking about is really, I've seen it happen in his company, very close to his company, and we've done some work with them. So, having said that, for me, after my 34 years in the army and 21 years in the corporate, what that one thing I have seen through and through, both in the army and in the corporate, less in the army and more in the corporate, is leaders firefighting. They generally are working crisis to crisis. They have a task today, and they are just doing all they can to make that task happen today without a glimpse of what's going to happen tomorrow. Forget about what's happening 2 to 3 years later. And why this happens is they don't build good teams, they don't trust their teams, they don't have clarity, and because of this, the uncertainty factor keeps multiplying. And with that, what happens is that what a leader should do is delegate and empower other people to do the main task, which he does, not realizing that the moment you transition from a team member to a leader, your job is not to do things, it is to get things done. And they don't do it, they keep doing those things again and again, and the other people become redundant. But what suffers is the organization not being able to look forward and prepare for it. So, to me, good leaders operate ahead of the predictability curve. They allow their teams to work on everything that the organization requires, and they get into a strategic thinking mode and think about the futures, because leaders today must be future ready. Thank you.
Maury?
Hello? Okay, perfect. Yes, in my career, I've worked in international higher education for the past over 20 years, but also international business development. And I found that, I mean, wherever I went, I started my career in Ukraine in 2004. So I go from pre-conflict Ukraine to post-conflict Iraq to post-financial crisis UAE to landing on January 23rd in Shanghai, China, right before the national lockdown of COVID. So having lived and worked around the world in volatile markets, I find that one thing remains true is that the most lasting, impactful capital that you can infuse in a market is human capital. It's the most transformational. It's the most, you know, I've worked in different industries, oil and gas, construction, manufacturing, but those are transactional in nature. What's transformational is that you can create generational wealth if you allow people in host countries to enhance their skills. And so what I did, for instance, in Iraq was working with the Prime Minister's office to send Iraqis to the US, to the UK, and to come back with advanced degrees to lead the new country. And so to see that, that's generational wealth. That is the most impactful, most lasting capital you can generate within a new market, because it creates credibility and trust with the government. It creates corporate partnerships, and it creates talent pipelines with universities. And that's the way to sustain growth in a new market, is to have public, private, and academic partners. And that's what I found in my experience, but also to have an owner's mentality. This is a great place to visit. Dubai is an amazing place. And you can come here and you can compete. Or you can stay here and win. There is a difference. People rent or people own. And when you rent, you might make a living. But when you own, when you put a permanent presence in a new market, you have opportunities you will not get in other places. When you live and breathe and work in a certain market, I was able to work with the Prime Minister's office, I told you, in Iraq, or work with the, several governments here, Ministry of Finance and whatnot. And so to have the access, we call it Wasta here, we call it Guanxi in China when I lived in China, but the relationships you can build happen when you put boots on the ground, when you stake your claim and you make a long-term commitment to a certain market. And so I think that there's volatility, but the resilience that you speak to, if you stay. I came here after the financial crisis, but I left like everyone else. If I stayed here after 2008, 2009 till today, my life would be completely different. And so I would say, when you enter a new market, make that firm commitment, add human capital where you enhance the host country, and you can drive long-term change.
Anastasia, what means making bold decisions for you in your world?
Well, I think it's first of all being really brutally honest. Let's put it this way. Brutally honest in the meaning that at some point of time realize that the model that you have developed, worked on, the narratives that you lived with has changed. And you need to make the decision to move on and change the reality. And this is, based on my experience, is one of the most difficult decisions that leaders make. Before, and I will give example that personally shaped me in many ways. Before moving into my own business, I worked in a major multinational company for about 10 years, like an executive role. And it's indeed one of top 3 in the world in its industry. And there was a CEO of the company who at some point of time realized that the company requires lots of change. That was very clear signals from the market, the overall state of the company, but it's a great company with outstanding culture who lived decades successfully in the market. And what he has done, he has made a decision to reshuffle the business, and the scale was huge. I'm not talking about small business, I'm talking about multi-billion business. And he decided to reshape the company. sell parts of the business that are not beneficial, reinvest into new areas, let many people go, change the portfolio. And he put everything on the track. He communicated rigorously about the need of change to the board of directors and to the management. And then everything was agreed and moved on. He decided to leave. My personal, it's impressed me so much. And what he said basically, that he is so much interconnected with the business, with people that he worked with for many years, for decades, that he would not be able to drive the change with the speed and boldness that make it happen. And the management needs another person, another management in order to drive the change in the company. That was his decision. Frankly, and he could stay, but he decided to leave. This is the bold decision. In spite of all the pain, in spite of all the history of this person with the company, after 35 years of career, he decided to leave to let the company strive.
Hashim, you want to
I
add?
wanted to say something. Again, this one thing about people leaving at the time when they are probably required and make a very crucial difference to the running of the company. In the army, we have a system of a second in command at all levels. Right from a section commander has a section 2, a platoon commander has a platoon 2 IC, and so on. So anyone leaving at the second in command is their structure of duties is such that they know exactly what the boss was doing and they can carry on in war, in peace, to do the same task without any loss of continuity. And the second thing, second thing is that the system is such that you are trained to be one up. So a company commander is always trained to be a battalion commander before he becomes a battalion commander. In the corporate, it happens after you take over and you start learning from the job at the cost of the company.
Thank you. Maury, can you elaborate a little bit of what are the biggest changes at the moment occurring in the educational sector in your area?
I'm actually proud to say that we just recently launched the first international branch campus of a Canadian public university here in the Middle East North African region, and it's redefining, what the U.S. universities, Canadian universities, how to reach, their markets and how to reach students where they are, because if you're not able to pivot, if you're not able to innovate, then you will be left behind. And AI and all the tech innovations that are taking place are changing the way that we reach students, that we educate students, but that we reach people that are working professionals, C-suite as well. And so if you look at IT, for instance, or AI, we used to recruit students to come to, you mentioned Indian students to go to the US or to the West. All those people have lost their jobs. All those people 20 years ago that I recruited to come to the U.S. for IT positions they're gone. But you know who stayed? People that got IT management programs, because they were able to gain leadership skills. Because AI is going to replace everyone but top leadership. So if you have senior level, if you can reach that senior level, the opportunity for you to manage teams, to lead teams of people, even in AI or any industry, but especially in tech, because a lot of those guys, they would come from Silicon Valley to our university to get that MBA that was IT management related, that sustained them, that helped them to survive, with the challenges that are taking place. And so programs that innovate, universities that innovate, being able to reach people where they are instead of having them, relocate, it provides, a much more of a consumer focus in terms of higher ed, that we're looking to upskill, we're looking to have market relevant programs. So a lot of the programs, a lot of the universities that are more traditional in nature, are being, acquired or closing. And so in my field, you reach the student where they are, you reach the consumer where they are with a product that provides value, that adds value, and it doesn't have them separate their personal professional life, that's kind of in alignment with where their goals are. That's what's going to survive, and that's going to thrive.
Sorry, if I may.
On the aspect of education, I just wanted to add what you said very beautifully. Many times people talk about many of the people skill, selling skill, motivation, leadership as soft skill. I, for one, strongly believe that it's a misnomer. These soft skills are the real core skills, which is what you very beautifully, rightly said. Because there are two skills which I strongly believe will never be replaced by any technology at any point of time. One is the people skill and one is the selling skill. Because sales is equal to income is equal to business. More sale, more income, more business. No sale, no income, no business. So everybody of us have to understand the importance of learning the science and art of selling as well as people skill, as you rightly said. That's how you're able to motivate and take organizations forward, irrespective of whatever may be the technological disruption that may happen. This is my take.
And these soft skills are very hard to acquire.
Okay. Kunal, do you think that catching the right timing is then also a soft skill one must have to anticipate changes and entering volatile markets at the right point of time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really in the thick of the business. This is one of the core areas that I operate in, which is building foresight. Yeah, and we've had these discussions, which is leadership requires foresight. What is becoming challenging in the world of volatility? Until 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of companies, especially large companies, would do scenario planning. They would plan 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. I've personally been involved in scenario planning for small companies as well as large conglomerates, an absolute necessity. Today, fewer companies are doing scenario planning simply because they're saying that we can't predict what's going to happen 2 years from now, let alone 5 years hence. But a larger number of leaders are recognizing that you still need to do scenario planning, except that you have to build many alternate scenarios. And leadership as well as staff should be prepared when that alternate scenario arrives. So the way you approach things is becoming different in terms of volatility. And you can actually break it down. Having worked with leaders, you've actually been able to, whether it's trade or technology and the way the sands shift, your approach to dealing with that change is going to be completely different.
I just want to say one thing, but you mentioned, I think that the Western expats, and that's what I did my PhD was on expatriate management in UAE. And what I found was that there's a lot of Americans that come here with subject matter expertise, and they're motivated. But what they're not ready for is they don't have the metacognitive skills. They can't adapt because we have a 3 p.m. deadline, and this is how things have to happen. Well, that doesn't work in all markets, and you have to be able to have some tolerance for ambiguity, right? You have to be able to. It's not about your leadership as much as it is buy-in from that host country. So when you're reaching that new market, you have to be able to be nimble and versatile. And I don't think that those skills are necessarily taught in the classroom. Like they teach you, this is how it is. Like the world is not in a textbook, right? The world is in the book is in black and white, but life is in shades of gray. So
yeah, I was going to add to that when you were making that point, which is I'm sure you recognize it in business schools especially, but also in areas like social sciences, which is volatility and change need to be very much part of curricula, because most curricula take so long to actually set in an academic institution that to change from that very quickly doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and you see, the primary thing in leadership is you have to have a vision, a very far distance vision, whether you like it or not, and knowing that it may not happen. And then when you work backwards, what really matters in a leader is foresight, and along with foresight, the agility and adaptability. These are the very fundamental requirements, because you have to have contingency plans, like you said. You have to have ways of dealing with the situation as it comes, but still keep the goal in mind.
How is that for you, Anastasia?
I agree. So the ability, what I see currently with many of my clients, that the teams are lacking exactly the ability to change and adapt. And what is happening actually is that the best way, in many ways, the best way to proceed is how it's happening in IT industry. Try fast, fail fast. Right? So the ability of a team or a company to come up with idea, realize, not major, but a small one, try, fail, learn, go ahead. This is a skill that is totally missed. And what I also spotted that there is a major contradiction in between the corporate mentality. I'm sorry for saying that, and the ability of the teams to innovate. Because, well, for the manager, if a manager fails, well, that's a major concern about the personal consequences. So, right. So even if I fail on a minor area, what will be the personal consequences to me? How I would move with that approach if I cannot predict the consequences for my personal career. And I think what is very important at the corporate level in any company currently is to be very articulative about this culture, about the ability of team, that the management is okay and actively encourage the ability and the ability of the team to try, fail, and go ahead. Here, I think the important point is governance. How the company in overall, where are the red lines? How the company like outline the red lines that you cannot cross within this culture. Yes, you can fail, but this is the red line that you cannot cross. And that would bring, for example, major liability for the company or risks. But this environment, the ability to adapt, learn, and move ahead, this is something that is very much missed, especially in major companies.
In fact, one study which I did, because I've been a student of attitude, because as we all know, the altitude of success that an individual or organization happens depends upon the attitude they harbor. On the study, we found that four, which substantiate what Sushil and Dasha said. Four attitudinal qualities can help you in the volatile and very challenging environment we are facing. First is alertness, curiosity, responsiveness, and resourcefulness. These are the four attitudinal quality which, if an individual or organization adopts, they will be able to face the volatile environment better.
Thank you. We have only a couple of minutes left, so I would like to invite you one more time to think about a question you want to ask us. While you are thinking about it, I'm going to ask my panel a question. So for the leaders in this room who might feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, what is a bold and smart decision which they could implement over the next 30 days in their normal workday? So Anastasia, do you have a suggestion? Do you want to start just giving a small hint?
Well, I would probably disclosing the strategy, but anyway, so no problem with that. So I worked in the market and work with many teams, corporate teams, currently because I am in digital transformation and legal, so you can imagine the complexity. So considering that legal is one of the most conservative functions or businesses, I think that this market is a bit missing it's not only in the UAE, it's everywhere actually. So that there are no talents. There is no talent pipeline. The technically driven lawyers having digital mindset who can drive the operations. And this is a very special skill, I can tell you, considering that I'm 10 years in this industry. I think the next move that I'm going to make strategically wise, I would learn and I will step into education. What's the answer? So if there is no talent pipeline in the market, the best way to approach that is to help this pipeline to grow. And so I will move more into educational area working with probably universities and helping them on shaping the course to drive the legal operations and technology and artificial intelligence to grow the new generation of lawyers that can, in the end of the day, shape the market.
Thank you. Maury, one thing to implement?
Well, something that I think what's great about living here in the UAE and in other similar markets is that the synergy with public and private sectors, the ability to really develop incubators, both in terms of business, but also enhancing human capital and skill development here in the UAE. I found that if you find a permanent presence, if you register your business, it's different than passing through. Dubai is a great place again to visit, but having a permanent presence in the markets that you're looking to engage provides that stability, and it helps you create that long-term partnership with the university. If you're looking to build a talent pipeline, which I think is vital, we're doing AI, and there's even micro credentials that you can do. Even whatever industry you're working in, AI is critical to learn to know. So there's ways to operate, complementing with what you're doing in your work. Gain those AI tools to really drive growth in your business. But I think to have a permanent, presence in the markets you're operating will help you develop alliances with government, with industry, and with academia. So that's what I would recommend.
Bashin, point to implement?
Yeah, so the main decision I need to take in 2026 is to come down from 1 mile wide to 1 inch deep. That's my problem. I am now going deep into learning AI. I'm also doing a lot of training on public speaking, particularly focused on preparing people for the TEDx talk and so on. So I want to narrow down to only 1 or 2 things because I am making my life too busy, and I want to narrow down to 1 or 2 things and have to eliminate. Because even yesterday I was talking in one of my panels that clarity is the main important thing for any leader or for any entrepreneur, because clarity is, to me, defined as eradication of the unwanted. The moment you start narrowing down your options from many to few, you get clarity, and only with clarity can you focus and grow in a particular way.
Yeah, I've got 2 statements to make, 2 formulas. One is one which has been a part of my life is to be always a student of life. Learn, unlearn, and relearn is one of the important principles which all of us have to adopt in order to keep up with the technological disruption with the AI coming. And second one is always remember your personal development is your business development. And I really want to appreciate all of you in the audience for being here, because you have shown, by being present here, you have shown that you are willing to learn. I think that is going to be very, very important for this challenging, volatile market. Thank you.
Kunal?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really about personal development. What we realized is companies have realized that the one size fits all formula doesn't work. So no longer training programs for 50 people in an organization. It's completely and already moved to so you determine what your own growth needs are, what your own trajectory is, and the company will support you. The entrepreneur will support you in your growth. And if you do that, you're adding value not only to the individual, but you're also adding value to the entire company, because along with that individual, the people around that person, whether they are managers or their workers, will grow.
Thank you very much. Now I would open up the panel discussion to you. Is there a question from the audience? Yes, please. Do we have a microphone, or I hand over mine? Thank you.
Hi everyone. Very insightful discussion. My name is Mayuresh. I'm from Betacraft. I had one question. In this volatile times of AI, how do you decide when do you retrain or when do you replace the people that you have in your organization? Thank you.
In fact, here, Mayuresh, I've been an entrepreneur for the last 30 years and multiple businesses. one thing I would really urge you is in order to sustain and build your culture of your team, ensure that you always do keep your team as much as possible. Try to retrain them, ensure that you re-educate them. Don't allow them to be just let off, because that sets a very big precedence. I just give you an example. During COVID, uh, when we had a total shutdown in India for almost 2 years, uh, as a leader, I took a decision that I will not let even one of my people to leave. And I, right from the day one, we, through the Zoom network, ensured that had a communication with them, just giving them the confidence that we are there with you. We had, our sale came down to less than 5%, but still we sustained. And I tell you, because of that, today our company has rebounded more than our sale earlier. My friends like Sushil, I had 64 of my personal friends come every day on the Zoom and educate people, just give them the confidence. So I would always recommend that don't replace people,
Yeah.
retrain them and do it.
I'll add one thing, and that is again from my army experience. In the army, as a leader, we were taught one very clear thing: a leader has two tasks. One is accomplishment of mission at all costs, no compromise. So you have to tell your teams, task has to be done, come what may, or whatever it takes, right? Second is welfare of men. Only two things. So they said, if you are sure that you want to get your job done, and the second thing is you keep your people happy, because stressed out people, tired people, unhappy people can never produce results. Simple. Now it's a very tight walk rope for the leader. If you do too much of welfare, then you're likely to suffer somewhere on the uh, accomplishment of mission part. And if you're too focused on your mission and you don't care about the human factor of people involved, then you are not going to get the real productivity from a person. You're not going to get that inspired team worker who's going to go and uh, sort of reinforce your work. And therefore, when you balance out these things, you will find what Arunagiri said, your people will not leave. I was just listening to him talking to a girl whom I know from the last 10 years working with him. And I also interacted with her for some mutual trainings and all we do. The way they are so motivated, they'll never leave this company. So you don't have to fire them.
I would put it into sequence. First, retrain. It doesn't work. Let go. And actually, that's the most painful matter. Always with huge pain. But sometimes you have to. My experience, my personal, very painful experience, because again, it's huge for me personally every time. Remain human and caring.
Yeah.
That's very important. Even in case you have to people go, and sometimes it's just objective reality. The person is not at the right place and you cannot find the right place in the organization. The person is consistently resistant to change and doesn't want to train in spite of all the investment. Remaining human and keep talking, keeping the contact with the person, having discussions, it's critical element of all the change management in this case. If a person is not explained why you are making this decision, if the person feels that he or she is ignored and just rejected without explanation, that's the worst outcome. The worst. Keeping the person hand, explaining, even taking the pain that this person would inevitably throw to you, because that happens. That's a managerial task. You have to accept the pain. You have to keep talking.
Two things I want to add to this. One is be firm and polite. No compromise, job has to be done, but don't abuse them, don't use language that they will not like. Number one. And number two, a leader should be very human, very empathetic, but have a streak of ruthlessness. That's it.
Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time quickly, so I will not take another question, but I would like to thank my panelists for their openness and insights, and thank you to you for your attention and the questions you asked. And yeah, if something sparked from what we have said, please feel free to catch the panelists in the hallway. I'm sure they will be open to have a further and longer and deeper discussion with you. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy CXO2 conference.
Thank you.